Get real. Don't read. Nobody wants the government legalizing it, fool. Think about the quality.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm rude. I just got no...
To another edition of High Society. My name is David Malmo-Levine, and good cannabis, eh? What you were listening to is the Bayer's Men's Chorus, and what you were looking at there is one of Bayer's business partners' publications on cannabis. It appears that Bayer has been interested in cannabis for quite some time. As you know, Bayer is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies on the planet, and is the inventor of aspirin and heroin. And they recently merged with GW Pharmaceutical on their Sativex brand name medicinal extract products. And we here at Pot TV thought you should get all the skinny, all the lowdown on that, not only about the merger, but the details behind the merger. Let me just read to you from the GW press release of May 21st, 2003. The GW and Bayer announced marketing agreement on pioneering new cannabis-based treatment. GW Pharmaceuticals and Bayer AG have entered into an exclusive marketing agreement for GW's cannabis-based medicinal extract product to be marketed under the Sativex brand name. Bayer has obtained exclusive rights to market Sativex in the UK. In addition, Bayer has the option for a limited period of time to negotiate the marketing rights in other countries in Europe, in the European Union, and selected other countries around the world. They are teaming up to provide a, quote, a medically acceptable cannabis-derived product, unquote, for the treatment of MS and severe neuropathic pain. The product is a whole plant medicinal cannabis extract containing THC, or as GW puts it, tetranabanx, and CBD, or according to GW, nabindiolex, as its principal components. The medicine is administered by means of a spray into the mouth. Now, this next clip you're going to hear from a GW associate who rationalizes why only GW and no one else should be distributing this dangerous medicine.
How do you react when people say, look, these trials are going to show cannabis is safe, could benefit lots of people, and therefore we should decriminalize it?
I think the dangers are that people might think they are taking a drug that has been proved to be harmless. What you must bear in mind is that there is more to your brain and your body than merely acute death. It's not so much that you're going to die, it is more that if you are changing the chemical landscape of your brain, as life does generally, but if you're doing it in this very large-scale way, then perhaps, and I stress perhaps, you are running the risk that you are changing your configurations and the kind of mind that you might have. You might literally be blowing your mind.
Dr. Jeffrey Guy, executive chairman of GW, said, quote, "We are delighted to have entered into this partnership with Bayer. Having recently submitted the regulatory dossier for Sativex to the UK regulatory authorities, this announcement is a further significant achievement for GW. It is GW's first commercial collaboration and marks the start of a new phase in the company's history. As a leading global pharmaceutical company, Bayer is well placed to maximize the market opportunity for GW's product." Well placed is right. Bayer is currently ranked 6th in chemical sales, 1st or 2nd in agricultural chemical sales, sells about $11 billion worth of healthcare products per year, and does about $30 billion US in total sales per annum. According to Reuters, the Drug and Chemical Group will pay GW up to £25 million, that's 41 million bucks, for exclusive rights to market Sativex in Britain. Dr. Guy told Reuters he was comfortable with analysts' forecasts of peak annual sales of £250 million, that's times 10 on the profits there, in initial markets of Europe and Canada. Shares in GW shot up on the news of the deal. Well, we're going to go and show you a bit of the history of Bayer Pharmaceuticals, and later on, we're going to do an interview with a University of British Columbia law professor on the feasibility of GW's cannabis plant patents. Bayer, Bayer, Bayer. What luck. I had, just by coincidence, been studying this company all year long. This company is possibly the worst record on human rights and the environment on the planet. I personally see Bayer as the most evil corporation ever. If it was 20 strikes and you're out, Bayer would have been gone a long time ago. Since this is a short show, I'm only going to skim through some of the worst crimes, as we simply don't have the bandwidth to do a comprehensive show. And the links can be found in the info box at the bottom right of the show page for all the sources to this. In 1897, a Bayer chemist, Arthur Eckengrün, a Jew, discovered aspirin. Eckengrün was prolific with 40 patents to his name and was promoted to the head of pharmaceutical research at Bayer upon his discovery. Eckengrün was never given credit for discovering aspirin. When he was promoted to head of research, his assistant, German Felix Hoffmann, the man Bayer claims to this day invented aspirin, he was moved to the sales department. As it turns out, IG Farben made the Hoffmann story up in 1933 as the Nazis came into power. To be fair, they used their influence with the Nazis to make sure Eckengrün got sent to the best of concentration camps. He even got his own room. Bayer also invented heroin around the same time, perhaps their only good product in their entire history. Nothing better for pain in the world. Not a good recreational drug, however. In 1916, Bayer chemist Karl Duisberg would organize a loose association of the 8 biggest German chemical companies, including Horst, the inventors of Novocaine, BASF, the same BASF that's on all those audio and videotapes you own, and Bayer.
At BASF, we don't make the mattress, we make it softer. We don't make the boots, we make them drier. We don't make the house, we make it livelier. We don't make the snowboard, we make it stronger. At BASF, we don't make a lot of the products you buy, we make a lot of the products you buy better. BASF.
Formalizing this association in 1925, joining with their Swiss counterparts, Ciba, Geigy, and Sandoz, in 1929. From the beginning, the association was called the Interessengemeinschaft der Deutschen Tierfarbenindustrie, or the Community of Interest of the German dye-stuff industry, IG Farben for short. It was Duisberg, head of IG, a man who would, quote, not tolerate dissent, a man who, quote, believed in the Führer principle long before Hitler was even heard of. It was Duisberg who urged the employment of chemical warfare in the autumn of 1914 to get the dye industry going again after the war cut into dye demand. Duisberg, quote, also involved himself personally in the experiments. Duisberg, on top of being an authoritarian, also had a reputation as an anti-Semite. His tenure at head of Bayer ran from before Bayer's theft of aspirin until after IG used their aspirin and heroin profits to be the top funder of the Nazi Party during their most important elections. On April 22, 1915, when the Germans finally tried out their new weapon, chlorine gas, it was the IG companies and IG chemists that supplied it. 5,000 died terrible deaths. Another 10,000 were wounded. By the end of the war, at least 91,000 men had died of gas. Another 1.3 million had been wounded by gas. One of them was being a young soldier named Adolf Hitler. Hitler decided, while recovering from the IG Farben invented mustard gas, that he would channel his, quote, growing hatred for those who lost the war by entering politics. Aside from calling for a Führer, gassing millions, and warping young Adolf's mind, IG would set other examples for the Nazis. In 1916, the IG plant managers were calling for National Socialism, again, years before anyone had even heard of Adolf Hitler. In September 1916, 1 month after consolidating IG, Duisberg came up with yet another vision. He proposed that the War Ministry begin the forced deportation of Belgian workers to German factories. The Belgian clergy and journalists filled the world's newspapers with the horrors of the enslavement. The U.S. government sent their German counterparts a note about the forced labor, complaining of a contravention of all precedents. The deported Belgians, now 40,000 strong, refused to work. Faced with the worldwide condemnation, the German power structure abandoned their free labor idea, at least until they could figure out a way to avoid worldwide condemnation. In a 1925 speech to the Central Organization of German Industry, the Reichsverband, Duisberg was quoted as saying, "If Germany is again to be great, all classes of our people must come to the realization that leaders are necessary who can act without concern for the caprices of the masses." To be fair, it was mainly steel companies, middle-class German patriots, and the American pro-Nazi Prescott Bush and his bank, the Brown Brothers Harriman Bank, who kept the Nazis equipped with snazzy uniforms and torches, at least until the Depression hit. Fearing a communist election victory, more and more of Germany's industrialists began to support Hitler. By 1931, IG Farben was doing so too, although not publicly. Right-wing historians have tried to downplay IG's several secret contributions to the Nazi war chest in 1931 and 32, and upplay IG's resistance until 1932 to Hitler's anti-Semitism. Yet this was the Depression, a time when everyone was starving and desperate for any job. No specific amount was mentioned, but IG was by far the largest corporation in Europe, and any donation was, no doubt, vital to electoral victory. In early 1933, right before the Nazis' last election, 4 IG representatives showed up at a meeting of German industrialists and Nazi economic advisors. According to the November 23, 1945 transcripts from Nuremberg war crimes trial, Hitler and Göring were hitting up the industrialists for election money. Hitler was to have said, "Now we stand before the last election. Regardless of the outcome, there will be no retreat, even if the coming election does not bring about a decision." Göring then added, "The sacrifices asked for surely would be so much easier for industry to bear if it realized that the election of March 5th will surely be the last one for the next 10 years, probably even for the next 100 years. The Nazis asked for 3 million marks. They got it, and IG contributed more than 10%, the largest single contribution.